The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
The random werewolf, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. Where did I come from? Who knows? Where did I go? Still don't know.
Yeah, pretty much everything about this movie it could be described as random.
That's very accurate. Or sudden. If it's not random, it's sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this might be the second worst movie we've done after the Italian Reanimator.
Yeah, for 122 minutes, it was still too long.
So it doesn't have very much dialogue in it at all, and I think
none.
I think
Almost.
It's like a way to try to be able to sell it in other markets more easily and not have to do any kind of dubbing or anything.
Do we even mention the name of this thing? It's Dracula Contra Frankenstein or Dracula Prisoner of Frankenstein.
Yes. So this is the last of our sort of trilogy of movies that were called Dracula versus Frankenstein in some place or another.
Right.
But this one, it only has the loosest sort of plot, and with no dialogue, you're really guessing as to what's going on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just chaotic. There's just so much. There's nothing going on, and yet a lot going on at the same time.
Same time, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the director was Jesus Franco, and he's kind of nutty anyway, right?
Yeah, he mostly did softcore porn kind of movies, movies that edge right into not being softcore anymore.
I like how you said softcore and edge.
Right. But then every now and then he would get a little, feeling a little wild, and he would make a monster movie.
As you do.
Yeah.
I mean, sex and monsters, that's just kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. The lines there blur pretty frequently anyway, so it makes sense.
All right, so let's kick this thing off. Immediately, we just have random shots of the title card, first off. Kids, carriage, no fucking rhyme or reason, then ominous music and a misty castle. All right.
And this, fog is something we see a lot in the movies we watch. This castle is almost completely obscured by fog.
Yeah.
It's a terrible shot.
It is bad, yeah. And then we get this wonderful overlay or kind of a synopsis of the movie, I guess. The translation is, the vampire, sinister creature of the night, sleeping his eternal dream. When Dr. Frankenstein went to seize him, a fight broke out between two titans of death. And as it echoed, other monsters, nightmare beings, wake from their slumber like a hallucinating and devastating choir. It's attributed to a guy named Kleina, is it?
Mm-hmm.
We never meet this guy. This isn't a real thing, right?
Yeah, this guy doesn't exist. It's a pseudonym for Franco. He's just made up a character for himself.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's basically like a Star Wars crawl kind of thing, except, like you said, it's more a summary of the movie that we're getting ready to see than like a setup for the movie.
Right. It's like this was meant to be on the back of the VHS.
Much, yeah.
And they just slipped it into the movie because he liked his lines that much. He's like, this is art.
Right. And so once that ends, we get just a bunch of like shots around a like small European town. And
boy, get used to that.
Well, and also, like, I'm not somebody that is generally, like, attuned to, like, oh, this shot or this cut or the way that this camera pan or zoom or whatever. The zooms and pans in this movie are so intense and they never stop that, like, it's distracting, even for, like, a casual viewer who doesn't notice that kind of thing.
Like, it's like they're in on the joke, but they're not making a joke.
Yeah. Like, especially at this beginning part, literally every shot, it'll show you something, and then it'll fast zoom in on that thing, and it'll just show you something else, and zoom in on that too. And
you know, it's almost like a weird, either stream of consciousness or a dream. Like, that's the best way to describe this whole thing, because, like you said, we have random, like, zooms on just weird, nonsensical shit, and then we just have a girl walking up to a empty bar as a bell starts ringing. And it's like, this means something, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and the bar, like, has, like, it's a pub. It has, like, a sign hanging out front, like you usually see, like, old-style pubs. And every time that we go to this pub, we're going to get a super zoomed-in shot of the sign before we go inside.
It's like it wants you to know, there are toilets here.
Yes.
Because that's the sign. It's toilets.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, so she goes inside the pub and it's empty. Like, she's there by herself, and then there's like a noise, and she like turns afraid, and it's a flappy bat banging on a window.
Oh, by the way, we probably didn't put in those warnings ahead of time. I'm pretty sure there's animal abuse in this. Obviously SA, because, you know, you can't have an old 70s monster movie without some SA, I guess.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be plenty of nudity in this.
Yeah.
And, you know, pretty common, we're going to have some Romani people who are basically stereotypes.
Yeah, and they drop the G word. Well, you know, they basically drop the G word.
Yeah. After we get there's shots of a clock, a bell, a dog, a cat, like, just, it's just nonsense.
Chaos.
And then we finally get that lady that we saw in the pub earlier. Now she's in, like, her bedroom, and she's undressing, and then suddenly the lights go out, and she's attacked by Dracula.
Right? I love this guy, by the way. He's amazing, because he's just, like, standing there like a statue, but he's smiling like a vampiric smile, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, his eyes are kind of, like, bugged out.
Howard Vernon is Dracula.
Okay.
So, and, like, he doesn't really act. He just stands there and kind of smiles.
Pretty much, yeah. And, yeah, so after he attacks, he just, like, turns into a flappy bat and escapes. And then we cut to a woman who's in this... We'll eventually find out it's like a mental health facility or something. It takes a little bit before we, like, really hone in on that. But right away you can tell something's not quite right with her. She's in a room with a bunch of creepy dolls. She's painting on the wall like a child and kind of like
humming / singing at the same time.
Yeah, in that way that kids, like, sing in movies and stuff. But, you know, this is a grown woman. But, yeah, it's definitely got that kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, because this movie is so schizophrenic, we also get a shot of Dr. Seward, or the guy we will eventually find out is Dr. Seward, sitting at his desk doing some random work.
Yeah, it seems like their windows are facing each other. Like, I think she's in, like, the mental health ward of a hospital or clinic or something that he works in. And then, yeah, we'll also see Dracula appear at her window, scaring her. But when she screams, it's a very sexual scream. It's not a scared sounding scream.
It's half moan, half like, oh, Dracula.
And then after that she just kind of like hunches in the corner, like rocking back and forth, and, you know, just seems like she's fully broken from reality.
Of course, then we have Dr. Seward coming in and consoling her as she's holding the doll.
And then we'll just see him, like, in a carriage, like, speeding through town. And then he'll go to that pub we saw earlier. He goes inside, and there's, like, a crowd of people, like you know, kind of rubbernecker onlookers or whatever. But they don't at all try to get into the pub. They just want to stand outside and look through the window. They let him in very politely. He goes in, shuts the door behind him. It's very strange.
Yeah, that's weird. But this would be at home in Twin Peaks more than wherever this is supposed to be in Europe.
Yeah, definitely. And so, of course, he goes to that girl's room who was attacked at the beginning. She's not dead. She's just kind of like comatose. So like I guess Dracula only like partially drained her.
Yeah, and there's some random guy crying over. Who is he? What's this character's name? Doesn't matter because he only appears in this one scene.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then so Seward gets out this like metal rod or something, and it looks like he's gonna like put it in her eye.
See, I thought it was a magnifying glass.
Oh, that makes a little... Yeah, because he like gets it really close to her eye, and I was like, is he getting ready to like poke her eye out?
Well, he also does have a metal rod because he immediately lobotomizes her.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and so then the lights go out, and then we just are like back with him in the carriage as he's like...
speeding away.
Yeah. And so it's a horse-drawn carriage, but he meant like, I guess it's pretty common when you're like, controlling horses, you make some noises that kind of like indicate to the horse what to do. But every time that Seward's in this carriage, he is making the weirdest noises at the horses. Yeah, there's just like a lot of like, yeah, huh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very strange.
I think it's supposed to inspire the thought of a lot of action happening here when it's a guy in a carriage. That's it.
As he's going, he passes by the castle we saw earlier. He stops and decides to just like look in.
Right. He's like, we'll go investigating. Why not, right?
Yeah. And kind of like peeks into some of the like windows that are all barred up, and then we see that there's like a big door that just is like opening and closing on its own.
I wonder what's doing that.
It's like a huge castle door. Like it's it's not a normal sized door. For some reason, to me, it reminded me of like the doors in like the castles in Mario. Like
okay,
like
yeah,
I don't know.
It's big green.
Yeah,
big green weird door. Okay, yeah. I'm there.
But so yeah, this door being opened, he's like, "Oh, okay, that's an invitation." And
he's just like, "I'll just walk in this randomly opening and closing door. That's fine."
Yeah, of course, there's a bunch of flappy bats around in the castle, but he like goes downstairs into this crypt and finds Dracula in a coffin, and immediately just pulls out a stake and the world's tiniest hammer.
Right, it's so tiny. It's like used for cracking open lobster shells or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And he stakes Dracula. So it's like, that's a weird thing to have happened this early in the movie.
Right? He's like, I know how to fix this. Anytime you see a young lady in this position, you go kill a Dracula. That'll fix it.
Yeah. When he stakes Dracula, though, we were talking last week about, the Dracula, like, melting and that being kind of uncommon. In this case, he just turns back into a bat.
Just turns into a bat for no reason. A bat with a stake inside of it.
Yeah.
I really hope this was a fake bat. I feel like it was, but with the stuff that happens later, I gotta ask myself, did they kill a real bat this way?
Yeah, there's no telling with this one. Mm-hmm. So he leaves, and then we cut away to our first line of dialogue in this movie, which occurs at 16 minutes and 33 seconds into the film.
And it's probably the last one for a while, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yep.
They're few and far between. And this is our Romani people, and they're performing some kind of ritual. And you've got like a woman who's sort of like the leader of the group. Mm-hmm. And she basically just lists, it's like salt, soil, sun, water. She's just kind of like listing spell
ingredients for life.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's either a prayer or basically a little spell as well for protection.
Yeah. Everybody has hoop earrings, even the guys. They all have like head scarves. Like it's very obvious what they want us to think of these people.
Right. And they're also just like, everyone else is doing this weird humming song as well. Mm-hmm. Like it's like they were getting ready to start the Halo theme, but they never got there. Oh.
Yeah, and they see Seward go by in the carriage, and the woman looks up at the castle and says, Frankenstein.
Dun dun dun.
And then we cut back to the pub again. And now this time, it's actually like a working pub. There's people, there's a bartender. There's people sitting at the bar and at the tables and everything.
Yeah. And we get a guy who, I differently abled would be appropriate, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know what they're like. He's hobbling, like he's got some sort of like leg issue, but he also seems to be deaf and mute. Like, because he can just he just like gestures wildly, and he doesn't seem to hear what people are saying back to him either.
Right. He can only read the writing, effectively. By the way, do you want to know what his name is? Because they're never going to say it. It's Morpho, apparently.
Okay.
Why is it Morpho? I don't know. That's what the credits say.
Okay. He shows the woman behind the bar a little card, and it seems like she either can't read it or something, but so she calls up another guy who looks at it.
Danny! Just Danny.
Yeah, and then so he reads it, and then he writes something else down on it and shows it to the guy, and he nods vigorously about it and then leaves.
It turns out Morpho's asking, hey, where's Dracula's old castle? He's like, oh yeah, there's just a private street up the road. That's all.
Yeah. And so he walks out and he gets into a car, which was kind of shocking because we've seen Seward driving around in a carriage, and I was like, oh, this movie is taking place at a different time period than I thought.
It's taking place at all time periods simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, because, when you have those, like, old-style European cities, it does feel like this could be the 1800s, this could be 1960, like, we can't tell. Right. This car is, like, I would say it's like a 50s or 60s car, right? It's not even like a Model T or something, it's a, It's like a weird concept car, because I think it only has it's only, like, 3 wheels, I think. Okay.
Like, it had the 2 front wheels and just a back wheel for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem good to me, but what do I know?
It's very strange. But yeah, I mean, it feels relatively new for the time period when the movie came out, which is like early 70s. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so he drives away in his weird car. They arrive at the castle, and another guy gets out of the car. So it's kind of like this Morpho guy is sort of like an assistant character. He's an
Igor, if you will.
Yeah. Morpho carries like a large crate/coffin into the castle while the other guy goes inside, and he's like, here I shall be able to work and triumph. I mean, us calling Morpho and Igor, like, this is our Dr. Frankenstein. It's pretty clear.
Quite literally, and apparently he's played by a fairly prolific British actor, Dennis Price.
Okay.
And he's mostly been, TV stuff. So.
Gotcha.
And actually, at one point, he was Dr. Seward himself with Vampiros Lesbos. So I'll let you all look that up.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes inside and immediately finds the coffin with the dead bat. It's like he knew. Yeah, he knew where to go and he knew what was going on there. And then we cut back to the asylum location, and that lady is singing and crying. But it's like she's singing, and then it seems like she sees something and starts crying, but we never see what it is. Like,
right.
She's looking off camera at something. I don't know. I don't think that is ever cleared up either.
Nope.
Maybe she's imagining something, maybe who knows.
Exactly. Who knows for real.
And then we're just back at the castle, and our Dr. Frankenstein is just kind of like walking around, turning things on. Yeah,
he just spends like a good solid couple minutes flipping switches.
Yeah. And it's not one of those things where they're like cutting and, no, we're watching this guy just walk around a building, turning on light switches, turning on, science gear, all kinds of computer type equipment. And eventually we see that there's like a big metal box connected to all this stuff.
What's in there?
And somehow it turns translucent, and we can see that inside is our Frankenstein monster.
Yep. I like how he has an O face while they're like powering him up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not the normal like cringe or like grimace of pain. Like it's.
Nah, he's enjoying this one. Yeah.
He wakes up and he has a bunch of scars on his face, which we're used to, but these are just drawn on with a Sharpie. Like, yep. It is not a makeup job at all. Like,
no, it is definitely something that a kid did. Yeah. Or I hope so.
Yeah, it's like when a kid's dressing up like Frankenstein for Halloween, and it's just like, all right, we're gonna just draw some scars with a marker and glue some little electrodes on your neck and send you out into the world.
Yep, and we're gonna call it a day here.
Yeah. And then we just immediately cut to like a burlesque show, and we get the entire performance. Like
the entire thing. Yeah, the whole song and dance, literally.
Yeah. but it is not subtitled. Presumably from her physical behavior and what's going on, this seems to be like a body type song. Like she's sitting in guys' laps and everybody's laughing, and
Well, she's also doing a little shimmy while she's there, so it's like, this is titillating.
Yeah, and like the last shot of the thing it's similar to the number in Elvira's Haunted Hills, like where she bends over and like raises up her skirt and shows her underwear. That's the end of the performance.
Not the full Monty, but close enough, right?
Yeah. So then she heads backstage and starts undressing. She like removes her dress, but she's still like in a slip or something. Mm-hmm. And then the Frankenstein monster just jumps out and grabs her.
Just snatches her up. And he just walks out like it's nothing. And then we get a bunch of guards that try to do something. One gets karate chopped, and the other guy just runs in, tries to shoot the monster a few times, and nothing happens.
Yeah, it seems so like he's... they're backstage, and it seems like in most cases he would somehow escape out the back and like not run into a lot of people. But he just walks straight through the club, like all the patrons are there, they see all this happen.
Nope, this monster's taking all the shots.
Yeah. Later, back in the lab, she's strapped down on the like medical slab. She wakes up all scared, and our Dr. Frankenstein is drawing blood.
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to plug her into the Matrix when he shoves that. By the way, also warning for needles, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's very short, but if it still bothers you. So they do basically shove the needle into the back of her head and start feeding a jar with a bat, blood. Mm-hmm. And pretty sure they drown this bat.
So this part, it's definitely a real bat. It's like moving around while they're dripping blood on its face.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's happy about it either.
Yeah, it's like kind of twitching and like shaking its head around and stuff. And then we cut away back to her just kind of like, in pain. And then we cut back to the jar is now full of blood, and there's a bat floating in the top. And I don't know if they've cut to a realistic fake bat now or if it's the same bat. But I mean, they look similar, and it's just, it's covered in blood and floating in red liquid, so it's kind of hard to know for sure.
Yeah, skip over that.
Yeah, either way, they definitely had a real bat that they had like pinned down somehow and were dripping liquid on it. So that part was certainly real and kind of unpleasant. So either way, a little rough right here.
Yeah, but then suddenly Dracula.
Yeah, I guess once he got enough blood in his system, he just turns back into Dracula.
As you do.
Frankenstein is super proud of himself that he has brought Dracula back to life. He's kind of villain monologuing a little bit. He's, patting himself on the back. Mm-hmm. And then our Morpho Igor character grabs the now completely drained and dead burlesque dancer and just carries her to an incinerator. But before he throws her in...
Yeah, you got to get that essay in there for good times, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's dead, so I guess she doesn't really care at this point, but it's definitely creepy. This is like...
Necrophilia is still wrong.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. He, like, sets her down in front of the incinerator and just kind of, like, gropes her and kisses her a little bit, and then just chucks her into the fire.
By the way, that's rude.
Yeah, it's just gross all the way across the board there.
And I like how Morpho then after that is just like, all right, well, I'll just leave this Dracula back down to his casket. Just put him in there.
Yeah, so I guess either he had enough blood to come back to life but is not awake yet, or else it's just because it's daylight and he's supposed to be asleep. But yeah, either way, Morpho's got to tuck him in the coffin.
Aw, he's going to read him bat time stories. Oh, that was an awful dad joke. I apologize.
And then so this is the sort of aspect of this movie that is just absolutely goofy. So in the room next door to Dracula's coffin, there's another coffin, and somehow Frankenstein and Morpho never noticed this the entire movie.
Never fucking noticed this. She is the rogue vampire.
Yeah, it's like as soon as Morpho like drops off Dracula, he walks out, and then this other coffin opens up, and sexy lady vampire appears.
Right, literally Chica vampire in the credits.
Yeah, and I mean, she's basically in like lingerie for the whole movie. It's very, she's covered, but they're definitely like, she's the sex appeal for the movie for sure.
One of them. I mean, listen, every lady in this is sex appeal.
Right, yeah. But so she sees Dracula in his coffin and knows something fishy's going on, and so she just like runs out.
Yeah, like I was like, is she afraid of Dracula? Is this her chance to get out? But she keeps coming back, so clearly not.
I think she maybe is trying to like hide from Frankenstein or something, but she still again keeps coming back to this same place.
Not more than 15 feet away, even.
Right. And so when she leaves, then we cut back to like our main Romani lady, and she's having a nightmare, and then wakes up to see a flappy bat in her room that then turns into this sexy lady vampire.
And bites her.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut back to Frankenstein, who is basically doing captain's log. He's like a journal entry where we're getting the voiceover of what he's writing. And this is when we finally get him actually identified as Frankenstein in the movie. We're 40 minutes in at this point.
This is Reiner Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, 40 minutes to do an hour, 22-minute movie.
Yeah. So presumably he's like Victor's, son, grandson, whatever. Part of the line of Frankenstein anyway.
Of course.
But so his journal entry is basically, now that I have created my Frankenstein monster and revived Dracula, I am ready to create the army of shadows so that I can rule the world.
Right. So he doesn't have any like base goals. This guy is going for the moon.
Right. Then we just have him with Morpho. They're driving around in their weird car, and Dracula is just like with them, but he's
just chilling in the car.
He's just kind of like catatonic, though.
Well, he's not exactly catatonic because he's sitting there with a dumb smile on his face the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like this scene just reminded me of like Wayne's World, where they're all in the car and they have the guy in the back who's like super drunk or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When they're doing,
what? Like, I was thinking about, like, this whole movie, his face reminded me of something, and it just hit me. Mm-hmm. Do you know that meme with Willem Dafoe, where he just, like, jumps out of nowhere, and he's got the, like, awful smile on his face?
Yeah, the real crazy Willem Dafoe. Yes.
That's this! That's this, exactly!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's accurate, yeah. They eventually get to the Seward's hospital / the asylum or whatever, and we have Morpho peeking in the window, scaring our girl who keeps getting scared by stuff at her window.
Right.
And so she screams, and then Dr. Seward goes to check on her because, he hears her screaming, but, like, it's not really helping. Like, she's just screaming and crying, so he finally, like, injects her with a sedative.
Of course, it works instantly because all movie sedatives do.
Right. So at that point, Dr. Frankenstein sees all this happen, and he's like, Dr. Seward, you're Dracula's enemy, and now you are mine.
You're mine. I respect you, but I hate you.
Yeah. And so then he goes back to the car to get Dracula out to do his evil bidding.
Instead of just bringing him right away, they have to... First Morpho goes to make sure the coast is clear. Then Dracula's like, I just want to monologue at Seward, who beat Dracula the first time. And then we bring Dracula back.
And I hope that this is an instance of, like, really bad translation. Mm-hmm. Because, so he goes to Dracula and he says, go seek shelter in that girl.
You're right. Yep.
I'm guessing he means, like, drink her blood, but it sounds like, seek shelter inside that girl sounds like a very different thing.
Yeah. It's like, go commit SA upon this random woman, Dracula.
Yeah.
No.
And so, of course, Dracula goes and starts draining her blood. And there is, as we, like, the zooms in this are weird. This movie, while he's draining her blood, it zooms in, and so the entire frame is just her open mouth and one of Dracula's eyeballs. That's all you can see.
Looking into her mouth almost, yeah.
And, he's like biting her neck, like, you can tell what's going on, but it's just zoomed in too close to actually get the action.
And you know what? Apparently Franco decided that this was just how his vampires eat from now on, after this one scene, because every vampire you see feeding will be doing this.
Right. Once he, like, drains her, like, he leaves and just leaves her there. And then we have Dr. Seward coming in to check on her, because he had, sedated her. But he sees that not only is she still out, but there are 2 bite marks on her neck.
Dun, dun, dun. He's dealt with that before. Mm-hmm. But wait, he killed the Dracula here.
Yeah, so right away he's like, okay, I gotta go back to the castle, see what's going on. Something's still not right. But he takes her with him in the carriage.
Let's bring the catatonic woman with us.
Yeah, like she's going to be helpful in some way. But before they can get there, they're stopped in the road by the Frankenstein monster, who then drags Seward out of the carriage and then just beats the shit out of him.
Can we talk about how Seward had a gun and he was coming upon the monster? It's like, you could have just shot the guy. You know?
Yeah.
But no, this Seward wants to do this mano a mano, and he gets his ass beat.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, if he tried to shoot from a distance, he would have learned, guns don't work on this. I should turn around and run away. But instead, yeah, close combat. Now he's in trouble, and yeah, it's not pretty.
Or at the very least, the horror movie. Here's what you do in most horror movies, unless you're fighting Jason. If you see something in the middle of the road, probably just run over it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, your mileage may vary depending on what horror movie you find yourself in, but for the most part, just hit it.
Yeah. But yeah, then so Frankenstein's monster just leaves Seward there unconscious and picks up the girl and carries her into the castle.
Dun dun dun.
So now we cut to the lab again, and now she's strapped down to the table.
We slap some diodes on her.
And she's screaming, and Dr. Frankenstein is like doing some sort of experiment science stuff to her.
Which basically, somehow this is turning her into a vampire as well, or at least completing the transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if we're supposed to think that he's injecting her with Dracula blood, but it never really shows that happen.
Right, and we're gonna find out that this is gonna happen to a couple other future vampires.
Yeah, so we'll find all this out. We got Dr. Frankenstein doing another journal entry, and the idea is that he's gonna create more. That's his army of shadows. Is he's gonna use Dracula to create more vampires, and then he's gonna control them all.
Which honestly, that's pretty fucking smart. You have an ever-populating army. Apparently that you can control, and they're definitely better than zombies.
Yeah, there's a little bit more brain there to do things rather than just mindlessly walk. Yeah,
plus they could turn into bats so they can get away real quick.
Yeah.
This is the good call for Frankenstein. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand why he's not making a mass-produced army of monsters, even though presumably he's in Europe. This is after World War I and II, so there's a surplus of body parts.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This is, in a way, this is kind of similar to our movie with the aliens. That was kind of the Assignment Terror. That was kind of what they were trying to do, but he actually... In Assignment Terror, they never get around to making more monsters. They just get the one of each. But here, Frankenstein creates this female vampire, and then we just see Dracula and the girl both rise up out of their coffins, turn into flappy bats, and fly out into the village to terrorize people.
Oh no!
Yeah.
And then we get a kind of an older fellow coming home to his younger wife. And we know that because they immediately basically start smooching and getting ready to go to Pound Town, as it were.
Yeah. And the bats swoop in and attack them and immediately just drain them.
Hey, but this is a very progressive movie because we have Dracula on the guy and then the female vampire on the girl.
Yeah. They. Vampires are definitely the most gender fluid monsters. They do a lot of this, get away with stuff like this. But usually if you've got one of each like this, they'll still, boy Dracula on girl and girl Dracula on boy. So yeah.
No, not this movie.
And then we see back in the castle, our original, secret sexy vampire girl wakes up, and somehow still Dr. Frankenstein doesn't know she's around.
Right. Now she sees that Dracula has another female companion, vampire, and she just bolts off again.
Yeah. And then, meanwhile, we've got Dr. Frankenstein, and he has both the couple, both of those people, and, he's trying to turn them into more Draculas.
Right. And honestly, that's all right, so I'm going to praise this. Because that's a great idea, because, your number of vampires doubles every night.
Yeah, that's exponential growth right there.
Yeah. These are vampire stonks, people. But then we get the Romani, who discovers Seward's body.
Yeah, so that, he's laying there, after being beat up by the monster, and they carry him away to, like, help him. We also see the main Romani woman is, like, shivering in bed. Like, I guess she has been attacked again by the female vampire. We didn't see it happen, but that's kind of the implication. That
female vampire has decided that this is her human. Mm-hmm. This is her blood bag.
Yeah. And so the rest of her crew are kind of trying to help Seward, but eventually she wakes up and goes to check on him, and again does her, like, sun, soil, green firewood spell thing, and that helps. Dr. Seward starts to kind of wake up.
Yeah, and she basically gives him his quest of go kill the vampires.
Yeah, like, we're your friends, but you have the power. You need to, we can help, but you need to stop Dracula.
Right. And of course, also there's this guy named Frankenstein. He's also fucking things up for everybody.
Yeah.
And what is it she does over the ashes? It's like it's a spell, right? Mm-hmm. That's a spell.
She's, like, drawing runes. She's got, like, a bowl of ashes, and she's drawing runes in it and stuff. It's definitely just some, like, mystical nonsense that it's more stereotype, Romani stuff here.
Oh, yeah.
But she says that, Frankenstein has Dracula's spirit a prisoner, but Dr. Seward can save them all, and tonight during the full moon, a werewolf will appear to help him.
Right, what? Wait a second. Random werewolf? What are you talking about?
And it's a good guy werewolf? like
legit. It's like God has sent this werewolf to help Dr. Seward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you take what help you can get.
I guess. But I mean, normally it's like, they have the sign of the pentagram. That's the mark of the beast because they're beast. Mm-hmm. Nope, this one's like St. Christopher's werewolf, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Back at the castle, Morpho is carrying the vampires back to their coffins. Like, they seem to, usually vampires are pretty conscientious. They know daylight's coming. They go get in the coffins themselves. They know how to do this, but...
No, these guys got to be tucked in.
Yeah. So, Morpho's doing that, and then the secret vampire lady wakes up and sees Morpho tucking them in and attacks them.
Now's my chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she feeds on him, and this is the only time this happens. She has bloody eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I guess she drinks so much of his blood that it's just, like, coming out of her tear ducts.
Oh, wow, that guy was full of blood.
So then, yeah, she sneaks away again. We go back to Dr. Seward, and they are now carrying their leader, the Romani leader. Again, she starts talking about the werewolf. Like, this, things are getting worse. I guess we're not getting these scenes of the female vampire attacking her, but it seems like she's getting hit over and over again.
And of course, she's like, hey, tonight's the full moon. The werewolf's going to come out there and help you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is she the werewolf? Clearly, we've met the werewolf.
One would think.
You would think.
The lights go out in the house where they're in, that's at the castle, at Frankenstein's castle. The bat flies in, and it's the sexy vamp again. Mm-hmm. And she's looking out the window at a full moon, hearing howling, so it's like she knows the werewolf's coming.
Dun, dun, dun. And yeah, she looks shook. Like, she is terrified. And then random werewolf baby just pops in out of nowhere. Who is this guy? We don't know. We'll never find out.
Yeah. We first see him just kind of, like, running through the town while the Romani people are kind of, like, humming mournfully, doing their sort of ritual stuff. The werewolf appears in the castle, attacks the Frankenstein monster, and, like, they get their showdown while Dr. Frankenstein is, like, trying as hard as he can to hide and avoid.
Yeah. I said this was a Lucha Lobo match.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way.
Yeah. Because, the werewolf's pretty agile, but the monster's just body slamming the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those where, like, he, the guy in the Frankenstein suit does not have the dexterity to really do much, so it's like the wolf is he's doing the work, you know. He's jumping onto the Frankenstein's chest and like getting thrown to the ground and everything.
Yeah, he gets a couple good scratches in there.
Yeah, but then Dr. Frankenstein thinks he's gotten away, but no, our mysterious vampire lady is chasing him in Flappy Bat form.
Right.
But he like then turns on a bunch of his science gear and like electricity shoots out of it and zaps the bat.
Catches the bat on fire. Luckily, we know that's a Flappy Bat, so we can't accuse them of animal cruelty here.
Right. So then he goes just like immediately, like I guess that's it for her. She's just gone.
Yep, she's gone. She's charcoal.
But he runs over to Dracula's coffin and is like, "You have betrayed me."
Right. Like, that's a hell of a leap in logic, right? From there was a random vampire lady to Dracula has betrayed me.
Yeah. So he stakes Dracula.
Spears him, too.
Yeah. And then we get Dr. Seward talking to the whole like group of Romani people, and he's like, all right, now's our chance. The werewolf's taking care of stuff in the castle. It's time to form a torch mob, basically.
Right.
So they all, go storming into the castle while Dr. Frankenstein is like just cranking all of the equipment up. Everything's just like melting and catching on fire.
Like, literally, the wires, everything's catching on fire and melting. Mm-hmm. They're so hot.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Like, it's those, I don't know what those things are called, where it's like the coil that, like, it's pretty common for those to, like, turn orange and just melt. But yeah, it just looks great in this scene. And then eventually something zaps the Frankenstein monster in the process, too. And he's all, like you said, his face is all scratched up, but now he's electrocuted and just, falls over dead.
Hey, I wonder what happened to that werewolf. He was like, my people need me.
Yeah. Yep. Off to save another day, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Because of time zones, it's full moon somewhere else in the world. He's like Santa Claus. I derailed the shit out of that.
So then Dr. Seward arrives with all the Romani people, and everything's done.
Yeah, it's over.
They just find the vampires are all in their coffins, but they're skeletons now,
they're
not
plastic
bats.
Skeletons.
Right. But somehow they didn't turn into bats this time. I don't know. They were staked differently, so they died. I don't know.
Sure, why not? I guess. And then I love how Seward just pulls out the crucifix. He's like, thank God for the werewolf. What? Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's thanking God, and then the soundtrack kind of like the music sort of swells, and then just like
cuts off in mid-swell.
Like, this is our most abrupt ending of all. Like,
I'm telling you.
It's like, it's just, the soundtrack cuts off, Fiend, that's it. Like, we don't know we don't know what happened with the werewolf, we don't know what happened with Dr. Frankenstein. It doesn't matter.
Nope.
So, this movie is pure nonsense. Like, like we said, there's very little dialogue. You could watch this without subtitles and not be confused at all, which I think was the intent. Right. Very light on plot, just monsters doing monster stuff.
Pretty much, just like wait for the last, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's when you get all the action.
Yeah, that's all the good stuff.
But, we're talking shit about it, but it's definitely better than the Herbert West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it's definitely better than that.
It's just if you're hoping to get anything sensical out of it, good luck.
Yeah, like this would probably be a good movie to just like throw on in the background, like for a Halloween party or something. Because you're not going to need the dialogue or the soundtrack. You can just play your Halloween mix over it, and people will see fun stuff, and it'll be a good time. Yeah,
just hop in, hop out. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Absolutely, yeah. Which I think, I guess I would say like this is not like a good movie in terms of like quality of movie, but like I think this movie achieved what it was setting out to do. I don't think it's a failure of a movie. I think it wants to be a stupid movie, and it is.
100% success. It is a stupid movie. Good job.
So we can't fault them for that. They, Jesús Franco did what he wanted to do, and good for him.
Yep, he got there, I guess. I mean, it's definitely, it's an interesting take for sure, and it leads to a lot of cool ideas. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't look too deep into it, yeah.
Yeah. You know, the past couple movies we've watched have been pretty just like out there and kind of silly. Mm-hmm. But this one is definitely, there's no subtext here. Like the others, you can find some things to kind of dig into. Not this one.
No, not at all.
But that's fine sometimes too, so.
Yeah. All right, Anthony, where can they find us?
Yeah, so you can find us on all the socials, at the Frankencast, you know, mainly Twitter and Instagram, but, you know, wherever you want to find us, we're probably there. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com, and you can find us on YouTube and patreon.com/thefrankencast.
Yeah. Any time and attention is appreciated. We thank you all. You know, Anthony, I think last time I was talking about us getting sexy. Turns out I was a little wrong, but next week we're going to get sexy because we will have the erotic rights of Frankenstein.
Yeah. Yep. It's this one is also same crew, some of the same cast. Yep. But yeah, this is where, you know, we talked about you know, Jesús Franco doing monster movies and also softcore porn. This is where he tried to, you know, mix the chocolate and peanut butter together.
Yep. And it's a weird salty peanut butter chocolate thing now. So
yeah.
To be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.